Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our monthly coffee chat. Thank you for starting your day with us. My name is Rachel Zamsky. I'm the marketing specialist here at Aqueduct Technologies. Today, I'm with Kristen Leone from my team as support. I just want to note that if today's call is being recorded, we want to keep this interactive. So if at any point you'd like to ask a question, please type it in the chat or Q&A box, and Kristen will make sure to get those answered for you. And without further ado, Rick, the floor is yours if you'd like to introduce yourself and our special guest for today.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Rick Beaupre here, and welcome to our monthly coffee chat series. So every month we come together for various topics. It's not sales driven, but really what we're seeing in a day-to-day thing as we do our jobs and just things that I see in the market that really trying to help our customers out. So today, I'm joined by Rob DeLeon. Rob and I go way back as far as these series go and podcast. And today we're going to talk about unraveling the confusion in the marketplace. And I thought better who to bring on than somebody that lives it every single day. So good morning, Rob.
Morning, Rick. And yeah, I appreciate you inviting me on now that you're too popular for our podcast. You switched to video, said I had a face for audio. So we'll glad to be back together.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing now and how you came to work so much in the marketplace?
Sure. So, kind of as director of solution development, we look a lot at upcoming markets, and realistically for us at Aqueduct, it's a way to uh, take a look at buying changes for our customers, and that really drove us to look at these marketplaces. It's certainly something that's not only been growing for the past several years, but we've seen kind of shifts in buying habits. We've seen shifts in our vendors' organizational structures, which, I know we can talk about in a minute, but, I think as we looked at it, there was a need necessarily to start to pull some of our products, our services, and our solutions within this marketplace. And that was driven by customers asking for it, right? And for a variety of reasons, it's a great place to be.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. And so the marketplace has been around for quite a while, right? And but I feel like now it's really starting to pick up steam and it's starting to become a way of doing business more rapidly, right? So, I mean, I think, what did I see the other day? It's expected to reach 45 billion in sales. And by 2026, so, which is only a couple years away, a lot of transactions are expected to be done in the marketplace. So what
Yeah.
a better time to really to cut through that, right?
Yeah, and I think for years this was somewhat of a one-legged race.
Mm.
AWS really captured a lot of what the market looked like originally coming into what we'll call marketplaces. And then we obviously saw some competitors come in, very niche in some cases on their industry plays. So we saw Azure and Google, and obviously there's some benefits to each one that I know Rick, and I'll let you chime in there as well. But certainly we've seen a big takeoff, especially from Azure, as Azure AD has gotten a lot more proliferated throughout customer environments, that they've really picked up a lot in terms of how they're attacking the market as well.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. It's like in the beginning, right? So AWS really starting out, hyperscalers, that was, easy way to consume it. And then they started building a service catalog, and started offering, different services and there was a lot of vendors that are like, hey, I want to be part of that. And that really started to grow. And then as Azure started, maturing, they started following with their hyperscalers and their services. But I think one of the changes, and I think what shifted the market was the way Microsoft went about it and the interoperability of a lot of those things. And then, the different marketplaces were like, oh yeah, that's a great idea. We should have all of this, interoperability, those kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah, and I think you look at Google and they've got a large footprint in terms of data and managing data, obviously in the school and educational areas as well as government. Almost if you have kids out there, you know that they have probably some sort of Google account and some sort of place that they can go to a marketplace within their school account to download apps. That's certainly something that has taken off in the past few years. But certainly these I think are the three main ones. You've probably heard Azure Marketplace called the Microsoft Commercial Marketplace.
Hmm.
They recently rebranded it to Azure, and that's just because Microsoft has about 5 or 6 marketplaces. My boss won't let me create a Minecraft character in the Minecraft marketplace yet. So they focus a lot on the Azure marketplace, and that's what they've kind of rebranded. But if you've seen commercial marketplace, it's the same as Azure.
And I think they've done a really good job of identifying, before it used to be really blended, but now like with AWS, their things are, if you're going to dev or build a production, environment, this is the way to go here, got global reach, got scalability. Azure has taken that business entrepreneur corporate integration and security and kind of homed that on its own. And then, Google or the GCP, not to be left out, has really accelerated at data management, machine learning, and really targeted the educational space, higher ed, government, colleges, those kinds of things. And I think they've all carved out their niche, where they're gonna go. I've seen some interesting stuff in the Google marketplace for AI, a lot of the quantum computing and all of that stuff, which it's interesting that they start getting their own identity, right?
Yeah, and a significant, you mentioned AI, that's a significant driver right now, especially with Microsoft owning or pushing Copilot and some of their various AI type of infrastructure there. I think all three of them, AWS and Azure have more, but they're boasting that they have about 400,000 software or service options that you can buy through the marketplace. So they definitely carved out their niche, but there's no shortage in terms of selections within the marketplace that you can get.
Yeah, I think I read a couple weeks ago there's north of 30,000 offerings in AWS, about that same in Azure. And, it's probably, 20,000 or so in the GCP. So they're coming up pretty quickly, but, just the sheer volume of services in the services catalogs is amazing to me. As we talk about it, there's a lot of folks that are like, "Hey, what's the benefit to me? Like, what? Why do I want to be in the marketplace?" And I know I've heard you talk to different folks about that in the past, and I want to share your insight on it because I think, listening to you talk about that, you do a really good job of crafting, why somebody would want to purchase from the marketplace.
Sure. Yeah. No, I appreciate that, Rick. I'd say you'll hear a lot of it is around cloud commits, right? So AWS calls it the EDP, the Enterprise Discount Program that they have in place. So there is a discounting program within each of these that allow you to commit to a certain amount of cloud spend with whichever vendor you're using, regardless of who that is. With those cloud commits, you typically get a percentage off of your bill on a month-to-month annual basis, depending on how you're looking at that. When you buy something through the marketplace, you do get a commit spend retirement for that. So when we're looking at some of these third-party software purchases, and a lot of times it's hardware and software that you're not even thinking about that qualifies for this. So I know we talked about everything from Cisco to Palo Alto to Red Hat. A lot of these have worked really hard with their marketplace teams with AWS, with Azure, to make sure that this retires. The spend retires about 100% towards your cloud commit. So you can really chip away at some of those cloud commits that you may have with these spends, and you can do that for in some cases up to 25% of your cloud commit. So some are 10, some are 25%, but you can get a large percentage of your cloud commit completed by just purchasing through the marketplace as a separate avenue from purchasing the traditional way. And so I think that's something that has certainly drawn a lot of attention. I think that's what's really driving both AWS, Azure, Google are really driving towards getting more and more purchases within their marketplaces. It helps them to ramp up that commit, and it helps them to help their customers retire that commit and still get that discount that they're looking for. So that's a big driver. The buying experience is super easy. When you think about all the forms you got to fill out for every new vendor that you bring on, you think about the NDAs that you have to sign, the red lines, the contracts. You think about what we think about it here, right? What's our cash flow process? How is this going to get from order to finance all the way through? What's the invoicing experience going to look like when you can put that all on one piece of paper and have that just kind of part of your invoice alongside everything else? That does make it a little bit easier. It does allow you to move a little bit faster in terms of your procurement, and it allows you to kind of help avoid some of the red tape that you end up with. And then finally, scalability. Obviously, software, we're talking about what the infrastructure costs might be to host that software. You can kind of just put it on there and ramp up and ramp down as needed as you go through. So certainly, I think those are really big advantages towards buying through a marketplace versus a more traditional way, especially if you've already got that budget set aside for that spend. Why not use it in this fashion?
Yeah, that's a good point. Even if you look through the catalog, in prep for this, I was looking through the various catalogs, and it was interesting to me that not only the products and software and different SaaS, but there's managed services, right? And I know that we have some up there. There is professional services, implementation services for the various products that you're trying to buy.
Yeah, there's consulting. Each one of these has a separate carve out for professional services offerings, managed services offerings. So each one of these marketplaces allows you to purchase that way. And again, just bringing in, maybe you wanted a consulting engagement. Maybe it's, an Azure readiness engagement. Maybe it's migration items. The other thing that's in there that isn't talked about quite as much as well, there are some opportunities to get some migration credits or things like that might be available to you. So when you end up looking at it, getting the consultation, understanding what the migration of services might look like, there are times, and I don't want to overpromise, but there are times that those marketplaces allow you credits and bring in the ability to retire those migration costs.
Yeah, let's talk about choose like the catalog itself. Like I said, there's a lot of things that are in there, and how. I mean, we talk about how easy it is, but could you give your take on it? Like, one, from a customer's perspective, but two, from a business perspective.
Yeah, so two things there, and I know you've got a couple of screenshots there, one AWS and one Microsoft, the kind of the same thing. So when I look at it, I find it to be, again, more of the ease of business from the customer side, because you can kind of go through and you can really see what that looks like. It's going to be handled from a billing and payment from someone on your existing bill. So that's going to really drive, uh, I guess, simplicity in terms of what your invoicing is. From our side, from the business side, it's also very easy,
Mhm.
very, very simple because we are already a ISV, or in terms of AWS, we're on what they call their CPPO program, which is allows us to do their uh, channel partner private offers, which is what that CPPO stands for. So we go through a lot of vetting internally in terms of how our business works so that we have all of our vendor documentation available. We have all of our certifications available to AWS, to Azure, to Google on what we can and cannot do. And that allows us to essentially have all of that available for our customers to be able to pull, to be able to simplify a lot of their vendor management and those types of things. So I think from our side, it's very easy to handle one time, and then it's easy to get those things posted and transacted in that way. It follows a lot of the same mechanisms that we're already used to doing with our traditional on-site or traditional buying models. And then from a customer standpoint, it really gives them an option. And that's what I like to highlight is the old ways of business haven't gone away, right? You can still transact anything however you may wish it to transact, but this gives you another option. And I always say it's something where a lot of our customers have a committed spend, and you work with the government, and how they work, which is if you haven't spent it, we're going to cut your budget for next year because you didn't spend your entire thing. I view it the same way, right? It's a committed spend. You have to spend it. Maybe you had a bunch of projects you had planned for this year, but now all of a sudden you have to hit that committed spend. Maybe you can get something else out of the budget. You can squeeze, one more project out of there, or squeeze one more purchase of software out of there and add it to your existing bill. It gives you an option versus the traditional.
Yeah, and I'll give you a real world example. It's let's use Palo. Customer, same thing. Data center, their Azure footprint was growing, and they were like, we have to extend our security from on-prem to the cloud. And we're able to utilize the commit that they had with the cloud service to purchase the Palos and be able to set that up, set the network up, and all of that as part of their committed spend, which was really eye-opening, for them. Um, One of the things you talked about was the marketplace, handling the billment and the payments and all of that stuff. Um, can you walk us through like an example of the billing? Like I know here we have the pay-as-you-go model, but
Yeah.
there's a subscription model, annual model, private offer. I know that's really the confusing part, right?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a pay as you go, which you have the option up here. So one thing that they have added recently is this infrastructure pricing details. They didn't have that in the early days, but it caught a lot of people by surprise when they would spin up, like a virtual firewall, and then there'd be just, in this case, it's about 10% of the cost goes to the
Yeah.
infrastructure that you have to use for it. So they've been a lot better now. All the marketplaces have this infrastructure pricing portion on there. So it shows you essentially in this case, the instance type is based on size, is based on throughput, as as a security engineer, you have to kind of size what type of firewall you need, and our solutions architects can help with that. But then it'll give you an idea of what the infrastructure to run it is going to cost, whether that's in this case it's AWS, so it's an EC2. What kind of compute you need, if there's storage capacity that is necessary. It'll give you an idea of what that infrastructure cost looks like, and then you can get an idea of what those hours look like. Some licensing for some manufacturers, not all, has the amount of credits or hours that you're expected to use. It has an idea of what you can get from a pay as you go. I see a lot of subscription model, which is more along the lines of what is your expected spend. And, they'll take some estimations and try to get you into what's more of, a multi-year contract or a subscription that helps you, even out and pay for what you're using, more of a subscription model. And then finally, we have like an annual model before we get into private. The annual model, I would recommend significantly for bursted traffic. So when you think of retailers, think of Black Friday, Cyber Monday, big moments where you will have a burst of spend. That's where I look at the annual model as a great fit because it helps you kind of pull all of that spend into more of a yearly average versus the pay as you go. Because the last thing you want to do on 1 month is have a crazy burst of budget that goes out the window, and then you're pretty flat for the rest of it. So if you look at an annual model, you can annualize your spend and kind of bring that together. And then finally, we have these are all public models, and then we have private. So the private model differs a little bit, and we've got a couple of private offers that are available up there. This on the left would be more of a public offer, so anybody can go in, they can see that we have the MDR Advantage, that we have the Arctic Wolf capabilities here. That anyone can purchase and go through the process of signing up. And then we have what's called a private offer. So the private offer is something that is only available for whichever buyer we make it available for. And this is what I think helps have that seamless billing mechanisms towards the I guess the methods of the past where you would go to a vendor and you would request a quote and you would get the pricing, and at that point you would choose to either go forward or not go forward. The private offer is done very similar to that. So it is something that we would either tie to whether it's your tenant or we tie it to your AWS buyer ID. We would negotiate on your behalf with the vendor. So let's just say we'll stick with Palo Alto. In this case, we would work with Palo Alto's team to help build the quote, help bring down the price. You would get your, typical discounting that you may get from the manufacturer. And then that is published to you within your marketplace to buy, to enact upon. And again, it's private. It doesn't go to all the other customers. It's something that only you can see within your marketplace. You can choose to enact or not enact. And that is something that typically has an expiration date of 30, 60, 90 days. But once you enact upon that, it goes through and AWS or Azure or Google will honor the price that you received from the vendor, and they'll put it on their paper and pass along the portion that goes to the vendor straight to them. So you still deal with just the marketplace bill.
Yeah, and the benefit of that is you're buying it, right? You're buying it because you need it for the business or your use case, and you're using it to that committed spend. That's pretty cool that they offer that.
Yeah, and obviously you as a solutions architect, in your background, are very used to that motion of helping define it and build it and scope it and understand the sizing capacities and put it all together. And then obviously look at what that pricing, what that ROI is going to be for our customers. What does that look like? So you can do all of that outside of the marketplace and have those conversations in person if you wish to, or on a call here like we have, but you can go through those same motions, and then it's published privately to you. And then again, like you said, that retires your spend, retires your EDP or whatever your committed spend might be.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I wanted to point out today, because even when I talk to customers and I'm saying, well, we could do this for, AWS private offer, they're like, huh? Yeah, and there's not a lot of folks that know about it. And really, I think the preface is how this was born. I think it's very important. And again, it goes towards that committed spend, which is just a win-win on both sides, right?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Like I said, it helps create budget that you might have forgot you had, or helps you solve the conundrum of trying to get to your committed spend, especially if you need a little push to get there. All of a sudden you have that extra dollars to purchase in a different way, as I said.
yeah, absolutely. A lot of folks, being a security architect myself, a lot of folks ask us when they do buy um, things through the marketplace, what is the compliance things to it, right? What does the audit look like? What does all of that look like? And, can you talk about that for a second and the importance of it and what you kind of get from it?
Yeah, so in vendor insights, that's what everybody's talking about today. I'm sure most of our customers have some sort of insurance carriers or requirements that are knocking on their door in terms of what does your third-party compliance look like. Obviously, this simplifies things a lot because it's all coming out of a marketplace that they know. One thing that is available on these marketplaces, and in some cases it is an additional charge. That's how they get you. But there are continual compliance monitoring. So there's a config or audit manager that is available for you to look through any of the third-party software that you buy out of one of the marketplaces. And that will do pretty much any type of compliance reporting you want it to look against. So that's, SOC 2, ISO, whatever you may need it to comply with, you can pull those reports and you can do that compliance reporting continually on the software as it is. You can store that evidence all within there. So if you have multiple vendors that you're doing third party out of one of the marketplaces, they'll store their SOC 2, their ISOs, all of that within the marketplace. It's something that we provide as part of our services when we put them up there. So you have kind of one place to just go in and say, here's the 10 SOC 2s that I need to do. And you can imagine that saves a lot of time in trying
Yeah.
to go get and go find it. And one of the really neat things that is fairly new, they have a alerting on third-party compliance as well. And what that means is if you are using a software that is coming out of, we'll pick on AWS. If it's coming out of AWS and you have some sort of software you're using out of there, they'll actually alert you to a change if it changes the encryption type so that you can go in instantaneously. You'll get an alert that says they've changed the encryption type on this application. Go ahead and take a look, see if it still, is part of your compliance, matches what your third-party requirements are. And so you can stay ahead of the game instead of finding out, a year later that they've changed the way they do encryption or whatever it may be. So there is some alerting to it as well, which again helps you be more proactive with monitoring.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's an important topic, to cover here. Thank you so much for all doing it. The area I want to shift to now is what is Aqueduct doing, right? This is your realm, and can you speak to that for a little bit?
Yeah, so something that I would say has changed significantly. There are vendor marketplace teams now, which didn't exist, a handful of years
Yeah.
ago. It's a whole new realm for a lot of our vendors. So whether that be Cisco, whether that be Red Hat or CrowdStrike, they all now have a marketplace team that work specifically with these marketplaces, whether that's developing APIs or integrations, understanding what the costing mechanisms are going to look like. We're now investing in our partnerships as well. Obviously, we have a team that works on this directly in terms of understanding what the latest and greatest is, what from each of our vendors is available within the marketplace as they onboard new products, when the roadmaps will be, as they'll be in there. And then as we go forward, we're building our own marketplace offerings, helping to make sure that some of the Aqueduct brand is available and offerable through some of these marketplaces as we go forward. We're even pulling together our own licensing marketplace that we're self-branding as well to help make purchasing a little bit easier. Focused on Microsoft licensing for right now, but again, we're pulling together kind of our own marketplace and with the goal of trying to make purchasing a little bit easier for our customers. And of course, the consulting services, I would say, is something that from our solutions architects being used to coding in this fashion, as well as our engineers being able to deploy in this fashion, being able to tell our customers if they're ready to move to a cloud provider, if they're ready to transact from the cloud marketplace. These are all things that we can sit down and work with our customers via workshop or whatever that may be.
Yeah, that's important with the consulting services is in the workshop, to ensure that they're buying the correct way. And, it's kind of a value add that we do, right? No charge to it, but we'll help you, guide through the marketplace. Because again, even though this is a 45-minute coffee chat, it's still, very complex. And there's a lot of questions, that come up in the marketplace. So having you as a resource or myself as a resource or just helping customers, just walk through what they're thinking through the marketplace.
Yeah, and like you said, this is a $45 billion industry going into this year. And I would say realistically, those vendor marketplace teams are still relatively scratching the surface on what they can do. So when we talk about the APIs that they're creating, obviously the AI integrations that they're looking at for pulling in new software, that's constantly evolving, and it's only going to get a bigger and wider of a footprint. So when we talk about our ability to just kind of sit down and hash it out, it's an ongoing process, and like you said, it's free. It's a value add that we provide. So happy to kind of take a look at what the spend looks like, help provide a lot of that ROI conversations, and where we can help.
Awesome. Let's take a look at see what kind of questions we come in, and folks, if you want to ask a question, throw it in the Q&A. We have Rachel and Kristen that are standing by that can let us know. I see there is a couple in here. I want to start with one. Rob, can the service from the marketplace be easily scaled up or down based on business model?
Yeah, so I'd say that's one of the benefits really to looking at the marketplace. So because they're going to package the software with the infrastructure spend, as we kind of showed there, that there's two different costing items realistically there. You can scale up and down. And I think from a perspective of your buying model, will help you figure out if it's the pay as you go, and you can, scale naturally with, whatever type of elasticity you look like. If there is a scaling option that, I use the example of Black Friday, where you may have a burst of infrastructure traffic all at one time. You might look at more of like an annual payment option, but we can help you look at what that scaling looks like. And we can help you choose kind of which billing method you go with, whether that's a growth pattern that is going to be a long-term growth pattern, or if it's something where you need to scale up and down quickly for those burstable moments, and then what your finance team is going to like you to pay. Yes.
All right. I'm not sure if this is a question or more of a statement, but this is if there is enough customer demand around Minecraft, we could look at developing an offer.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, Microsoft, it's funny, Microsoft marketplaces are they're the little bit of the Wild West. So they've got Minecraft, they've got flight simulator things in there. So I try all the time to get, an Aqueduct character or something in there, but it's not in the budget yet. So we'll keep it.
When you let me know you're doing something in the metaverse, I'll be like, holy smokes, I can see you setting up a storefront in there and doing all that stuff. You love all of that stuff.
Yeah, I,
Yeah.
I I find it fascinating that we're in a world that I can put something into a world that like my 10-year-old son plays. So it's a fun thing.
All right, I got one last one. We'll kind of end on this one. This is a cool one. What level of customization and flexibility are available when utilizing services from the marketplace? That's a really good question.
Yeah, so the flexibility is a strength there. So when we look at it, like you said, we're looking at software, we're looking at professional services, managed services. So when we look at the flexibility, you can buy essentially a soup to nuts
Hmm.
solution realistically. So how much implementation help do you need? How
Mhm.
much management help do you need? How much scoping do you need in terms of what the software looks like? How do you scale up? How many users are you looking at? Is there, an M&A coming that you need to scale up, scale down? These types of items that we would look at as we're scoping out kind of that initial build for you are all things that we can purchase within the marketplace. And because we have the flexibility to tap into all of those different resources, tap into all of that, advice and the engineers that that we want to offer in that case is I think unparalleled, and the ability to pay for it in a different way and have that count towards your committed spend, how much we can retire, depending on what the purchase looks like. But certainly being able to build something start to finish, I don't think there's a whole lot of avenues that can do that.
Yeah, that's amazing. The customization I've seen has been um, pretty outstanding as far as what you can do. And then I've had customers that realize they'll start, with a firewall or virtual firewall and realize it's not big enough and to just scale right up with it,
Yep.
right? Based on what they need or what they want to do with it. That is just remarkable to me that we're able to do that,
Yeah.
that quickly.
Yeah, and you think about what that would look like in terms of a physical infrastructure and how difficult that would be. And if you are going back out to market and you're getting another vendor and you're having to sign their NDA and sign the onboarding documents and what the implementation looks like, the ability to just size up from a software perspective is much easier. And when you have the ability to wrap your services and those types of things around it in one marketplace is certainly something very easy and simple to do.
Amazing. Rob, this has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you so much for joining me today and helping us, navigate this confusion within the marketplace. I think you simplified it and, hopefully the folks got a lot out of it. As we wrap up, kind of next steps for us, stay tuned every month. We have a monthly coffee chat series. Webinar, the topics change, and it's all based on what you guys want. So if you feel you want to see a certain topic or anything, feel free to reach out to myself or anybody on this team, marketing or whatever, and suggest a topic. These are all, here for you. We have various workshops. Like I told you, we're more than happy to do one on the marketplace. We do them on the governance, risk, and compliance all the time. We do security architect ones all the time. A lot of ones that I've seen, a couple workshops that I've seen recently is, software defined perimeters, right? Because the perimeter is moving so much, it's hard to really encapsulate that. From this, you're going to get the session recording. We will send out the slide deck as well. There are links in there. So when you look through the notes, there's different things that you can click on to get more information on it. And again, thanks everybody for joining us today. Rachel, I'll turn it over to you and Kristen, and thanks, and I'll see you guys next month.
Thank you so much, Rick. And thank you, Rob, also for joining us. This was a really great conversation about marketplaces. We were really excited about this one. You guys hit it out of the park. So thank you so much for hopping on and discussing this with us today. So Kristen will be sending over that follow-up email, just like Rick mentioned. If you have any questions for her or Rick or Rob, just shoot an email over to her and she'll get those questions over to both of them for you. And thank you all for taking the time to join us this morning. I really hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.